Hello Star Wars fans! A quick note that this review is just of Star Wars Squadrons' single-player campaign. We'll have a review of the PvP multiplayer once we've had a chance to properly try it out after launch. Like the Force itself, the Star Wars Squadrons campaign is a balance. The balance between playing as both the New Republic and Empire, between arcade and simulation-style controls, and between explosive action and blunt exposition. The story doesn't break the mold or offer too much in the way of mission variety, but it's full of great references for fans and charming new characters alike. All of that is crammed into a series of super detailed cockpits that are still accessible enough for anybody to jump in and join the battle, which is especially spectacular when played in VR. Squadrons has found a sweet spot between the point-and-shoot simplicity of the classic Rogue Squadron series and the exhaustively detailed simulation of a game like Elite Dangerous. In fact, it's not too far off from the classic 90s X-Wing and TIE Fighter games. It's easy enough to pick up quickly, but there's also nuance to stuff like adjusting your throttle for better turning or swapping power between your engines, weapons, and shields on the fly. Those systems make flight more engaging and give good pilots a chance to shine without getting overwhelming for novices.
The Empire chose to destroy Alderaan in order to spread fear and douse the fires of rebellion.
The roughly 7 to 8 hour campaign jumps between the dueling perspectives of a crumbling Empire and a freshly formed New Republic just after the events of Return of the Jedi. The way Squadrons weaves the stories of two rival squadrons together is clever, sometimes having you spring ambushes only to have the next mission swap perspectives so you can deal with the consequences firsthand. It's very cool, supported by a cast of interesting characters in both squads. Whether it's the war-torn Imperial Shen with his battle-scarred helmet, or the mildly Force-sensitive former racer Keo, I could see any one of them fitting in as a Knights of the Old Republic or Mass Effect companion.
I went from semi-pro racing to fighting the Empire. Quite a change.
But while their stories are well written and acted, so much of them are sectioned off in optional exposition dumps in your hangar between missions. That means their backstories are pretty much inconsequential to the main story, which is a real shame. That larger story is an entertaining one though, centered around the New Republic's development of a new weapon and the Empire's hunt to stop them. It's undoubtedly amusing, but doesn't do anything too memorable with its unique dual perspective format. Neither side really makes much of a point, and your two rival squads never even directly clash like I so hoped they would. That feels like a missed opportunity.
Keep firing.
But this tale does provide more than enough reason to hop into the cockpit and fly some very fun missions. The story setups and gorgeously diverse locations make each one feel more varied than the shoot X thing in space objectives they usually boil down to. One mission sees you hijacking a Star Destroyer, while another has you navigating a nebula full of epic Clone War-era wrecks. I did wish there was a bit more objective variety, but the dogfighting itself is so good that things never got dull. Each of the 8 ships you get to fly comes complete with an impressively detailed interior. A functional UI is even built directly into each dashboard, but a consistent visual language for things like power and throttle keeps everything intuitive across ships. Those details go a long way toward making each one feel distinct, and you can even toggle off the on-screen UI altogether and fly by instruments alone. And while the 4 ship classes are shared between the Empire and New Republic, each faction puts its own twists on them. For example, TIE fighters, interceptors, and bombers have no regenerating shields, but more hull strength than the shielded New Republic fleet, making their missions play out a bit differently. Tweaking your ship's loadout can also have a drastic impact on its performance, if the mission lets you, that is. There's not much in the way of replayability here beyond trying higher difficulties or different ship loadouts for your own amusement. That said, there are some simple achievement-style side objectives for each mission that I want to go back and check off. I already mentioned that Squadrons shines in VR, and that might be an understatement. While also available through PSVR, I got to play on an Oculus Quest with a link cable on PC using a HOTAS flight stick and throttle, and oh my god, if you can play this way, you absolutely should do it. Apart from having to awkwardly watch cutscenes in 2D, it's just a phenomenal way to play Squadrons. It sounds cliche, but the immersion of taking in every inch of its detailed ship interiors or twisting the stick to weave in and out of Star Destroyer debris is exhilarating. Squadrons even lets you extensively customize what UI elements show up, tuning exactly how much you want to rely on the readouts of your dashboard. These extra steps are seriously impressive. Star Wars Squadron's single-player campaign missions are a feast for Star Wars fans' eyes and ears, especially in VR. Its engaging space combat is a great balance of approachable arcade control with the added nuance of simulation-like systems. It doesn't end up doing anything too memorable with its charming characters or interesting rival squadron setup, but this campaign still tells an entertaining Star Wars story I enjoyed no matter which cockpit I was in. For more on Squadron's campaign, be sure to watch its cinematic prequel trailer, and keep an eye out for our PvP multiplayer review after launch. And for everything else Star Wars, keep it right here on IGN.
The bed is closing. Go, go, go!